Hey, how's it going? Hope you're having a shit one. So, this is it. This is the Sony A7V. This is Sony's most anticipated hybrid camera in a long time. A camera that on paper does pretty much everything creators need. And honestly, I feel like I kind of scammed myself here. I recently bought this, which is the A1 Mark II, about 6 months ago. 50 megapixel sensor, 30 raw photos a second, pre-capture, insane AI autofocus, and incredible build quality designed for the toughest conditions. And the A7V does all of that with a smaller sensor and for half the price. But the big difference here is the sensor. Instead of a 50 megapixel stacked sensor, the A7V has a 33 megapixel sensor, pretty much the same as its older brother, the Sony A7 IV. So today I'm gonna take this thing out on the streets and see how it does. And it wouldn't be a proper first impressions video if we didn't do a little bit of weather testing. All right, here we are. We've got a thunderstorm approaching, and today we're testing out the Sony A7V, brand new camera from Sony, and the 50-150 f2 G Master lens. We're gonna test weather sealing first of all. It's light rain at the moment. I mean, the ground's wet. We've got a huge wet down, which is nice. And then the next couple of things we're gonna be testing out is autofocus. We'll try and set up the boost mode, pre-capture, battery life. I mean, there's so many things to test on this camera. Fucking hell, I do love this lens. 50-150 f2 is gonna be one of the greatest lenses ever made. Welcome to Melbourne, bro. Especially this area. Yeah, I live here, bro. Born and raised. So quick heads up, a lot of the audio from this shoot got destroyed because of the rain, but the important part is the camera survived and it works just fine. I powered it on the next day and it started up like nothing ever happened. So let's talk about the key specs on this camera you actually need to know. So like I said, it's got a 33 megapixel full frame sensor. It takes up to 30 raw photos a second. That was more than 30. That's fucking sick. Pre-capture up to 1 second, AI subject recognition autofocus, 4K video up to 120 frames, 10-bit video across all modes, same electronic viewfinder as the Sony A7 IV, and it also has a fully articulating screen, the same as the A1 Mark II. As for the grip, it feels slightly less chunky than the A9 or the A1 body. The Mark V has a more shallow grip, but it still feels really comfortable and solid even when you're wielding big lenses. On the A7V, it has one CF Express Type A and SD combo slot and one SD only slot. The A1 Mark II lets you run CF and SD on both. And that kind of feels like a deliberate product separation from Sony, but at least you do get one CF card slot because you're gonna need it if you're planning on shooting 30 photos a second. So in terms of autofocus and real world shooting, this is where the camera really surprised me. Sorry. Oh, here it comes. Proper thunderstorm now. Hectic. Oh, look at this. There are people running around like crazy again. Oh, we do love it. Oh, imagine being on a bike right now. That is pretty epic. Fuck riding a bike right now. Look at the people delivering food. Look at that autofocus, still tracking just fine. Which is probably the craziest part right now. We are in a proper thunderstorm and the autofocus is not sweating at all. Shooting in heavy rain is a brutal test for autofocus. And instead of just missing shots and locking onto rain droplets, it consistently stayed locked onto human faces. No hunting, no hesitation, it just locked on exactly as I expected it to, which is the highest compliment I could give a camera. Now there is a slight difference here, which I'm not gonna do a deep dive on because I already talked about 30 photos a second and pre-capture on my A1 Mark II review, which I'll leave linked down below. Both cameras can shoot 30 photos a second, but 30 photos a second on the A7V doesn't quite behave the same way. A7V. A1 Mark II. Like a turret. Aside from the sound, the main difference here is the endurance. So you get the same speeds, 30 photos a second. The A1 Mark II can hold 30 photos a second longer than the A7V can. That being said, I shot on my old A7R4 for many years, which only had 10 photos a second, and that got me a very long way, and I was extremely happy with that. So 30 photos a second is definitely a luxury and a flex, and you do not need it to take good photos. One thing I did criticize the A1 Mark II for was its battery life. In comparison, again, to my old A7R4, when I took this camera out for the first time for a proper shoot, I couldn't believe how much battery this thing was draining. However, when I took out the Sony A7V, Sony has made a noticeable difference to how the battery life gets affected, even though this camera has all the new AI software like the A1 Mark II. But it uses a slightly different processor, which allows it to conserve battery life a lot better than the A1 Mark II, and it's actually a noticeable difference when you're out shooting on the streets. It's not as good as pre-AI chip in the Sony cameras, like the old A7 IV I had, but it is an improvement, which is kind of incredible because in my experience, I've never seen or heard of a camera coming out that actually improves its battery life, since it still takes the original Sony batteries, the NPFZ100 batteries. Still the same batteries, but improved battery life, which is good, yeah, round of applause. That being said, when you go out and shoot, you probably still want to take spare batteries with you, but for a full street session like what I did today, worked great. So, we talked a lot about photos. How about video? Although this is a hybrid camera, it seems like it's been positioned more photo-centric rather than focusing on cinema or video aspects. That doesn't mean the sensor can't do more, but it seems more like a strategic choice from Sony. What you do get is 4K up to 120 frames, 4K 60 frames, which is oversampled, 10-bit in all modes, dual native ISO, which is from 800 ISO to 3200 ISO, in S-Log3, 5-axis IBIS, which is up to 8 stops with compatible lenses. And you also get dynamic active stabilization, which is digital stabilization layered on top of the 5-axis IBIS and works up to 60 frames a second. It does add a small crop, but it's great for handheld video or if you're walking around vlogging. It's just gonna help smooth out all those little micro jitters. And on top of that, the A7V has a new dynamic range, which is rated to 16 stops in S-Log3, which is a slight improvement from the A7 IV. And for modern content, nowadays there's such a huge demand for both vertical and horizontal video. OpenGate would have been massive for this camera. Especially more and more now because a lot of content creators want to be able to pull multiple formats from one clip instead of framing something twice. I know I do for sure. And the reason why so many people are talking about OpenGate and are so disappointed that this camera didn't have it is because there are so many competitors out there that are bringing it out in their cameras, like the Canon R6 Mark III or the Lumix S1 Mark II. Even some phones and action cams have it now, like the iPhone 17 Pro Max, and even the DJI Action 6 Pro has a square sensor. So there's so much demand now for OpenGate. So when you look at the A7V, it's not that it's bad at video. It's actually really good at video. It's actually really nice. Sorry. I had to say it. It just feels like Sony chose not to add OpenGate, unless they completely forgot to think about it, which I doubt. It looks like Sony will probably save OpenGate for something like an A7S Mark IV, or maybe even an FX3 Mark II. So, did I scam myself? Well, kind of, not really. The Sony A7V does about 90% of what the A1 Mark II does, at half the price. If you are primarily a photographer, you like to shoot street, portraits, automotive, travel around, action stuff, whatever, this camera is insane value and will last you many, many, many years without needing to upgrade. If you are a hybrid shooter, but you still like to shoot more photos than video, this camera makes even more sense. If you are a full-time video creator and you need features like OpenGate or raw video, I hate to break it to you, son, but this is probably not the camera for you. Now, the main reason why I would still personally choose the A1 Mark II over the A7V, without sounding like I'm huffing premium copium here, but the main reason is the sensor. When it comes down to image quality and resolution, 50 megapixels to 33 megapixels is a huge difference for my type of shooting style. I like to be able to heavily crop in on some of my photos and create completely new scenes out of some of my original shots. Call me lazy, I don't know. It's just the way I've developed my shooting style over the years, and it's something that I enjoy doing, and it's how I shoot and edit a lot of my work. So with 50 megapixels on the A1 Mark II, this camera for me personally still makes the most sense. That's not to say that having a 33 megapixel sensor is bad. I guess a plus side to a 33 megapixel sensor, especially over this camera, is that you're gonna get smaller file sizes. It's gonna be faster for your hard drive or your computer to ingest and edit. So if you are looking for one camera that does pretty much everything incredibly well without jumping into those top tier prices, the Sony A7V might just be the smartest hybrid camera Sony has ever released.